Hey guys, Carly Barber here with you again. So today, I'm going to give you the second part of my first love story, my story time. So we left off where I started dating this guy, B. I met him at school. He was super chill. My dad had finally met him. My mom had finally met him. And we were at the point where we were finally home alone at my grandmother's house. Not home alone. We were finally home at my grandmother's house watching movies. So my grandmother and my grandfather were both home. We were never home alone. There was always someone there. We were never left alone. With that being said, we were also in the living room, and the living room was super open. And so there was nothing that could happen. And besides that, like, we were both super respectful for my grandparents. Like, nothing like that was going to happen. Nothing sexual was going to happen. And our relationship was so, like, it was super, 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 like, what do you call it? It was very innocent. So there was nothing that was really happening, like, in our relationship. If anything, we held hands. Like, wow, we held hands. And I'm also getting my makeup done, guys, so bear with me. So so at this point, my mom left to a DJing gig, and we were like, we were just chilling at the house. We had a snack. I remember, like, he used to like drinking milk. B was like a significantly different guy. Like, if you were like, hey, do you want soda? Yeah, I'll have milk. Okay, hey, do you want water? No, I'll have milk. You know, and that's one thing that always stuck with me, is that he, like, loved milk. And I remember, like, his love for milk was weird. But whatever, like, we always had milk in my fridge, so it was fine. And so, yeah, like, we had a snack. Because previously my mom had purchased, like, all these snacks for us to have our movie night. Because my mom at this time had agreed to come back around 2:30ish because she went to the DJing gig. My grandmother was there. We were supposed to drop off B at his house because his truck broke down. So his parents were going to come drop him off, and we were going to go take him back. So that was the whole plan. So 11ish hits, and we're watching the second movie. Went to our second movie, and it was a really good movie. We start talking, and we sort of, like, don't listen to the movie anymore. We're talking, and we're talking about other stuff, and of course, like, we're just, like, blah blah talking, you know. And my grandmother comes back, and she's like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, oh, we're good. She's like, how's the movie? We're like, good. She sat down for, like, another part of the movie with us, and we were watching the movie. We're talking and whatever, like, having a conversation, but watching the movie, you know, like, still paying attention, because it was an older movie, and it was just like it was a movie that, like, I don't remember what movie it was, but it was a movie that we were, like, having dialogue over. We had watched before, so it wasn't like we were ruining anybody's, like, movie experience or anything. And my grandmother didn't really care. She was just like, so who's that? And you know how, like, when you sit with your parents, and it's sort of like, and who's this person? And what are they doing? And why is he doing that? And so you sort of had to explain to my grandmother, like, what was going on in the movie. Mind you, like I said, at any point in time, my grandmother would come back and sit with us for a while. And, I mean, whatever. Like, it was fine. Our relationship wasn't, like, really, like... It was first boyfriend, first girlfriend type deal. So it was never, like, oh, we want to spend just time together. It was, like, fine if we didn't. You know, we didn't really care. Just because it was just something that was just like, okay, like, we're dating. We're going to see where it goes, you know, whatever. So time passes, and my grandmother goes, she's like, I'm really sleepy, I'm really tired, is your mom almost home? And so I said, like, well, let me check. So I text my mom, and she doesn't answer, but I'm like, she probably didn't hear her phone on because, like, she's at a DJing gig, and she, like, it was, cell phones were new, so I'm like, oh, I'll call her a little bit later, maybe she's doing something important, you know, whatever. And so my grandmother's like, okay, fine. She's like, let me know if you need anything, I'm going to be in my room. But like I said, like, she would pop up anytime, so it's not like if you could, like, do anything. So we were holding hands, we were talking. continued watching the movie. By this time, the movie's like 3/4 of the way in. And so I'm like, I'll be right back and let me call my mom. Because at this time, I'm like, well, it's almost like midnight. And I just want to know, like, if she's on schedule or if she's running behind, you know, so I could tell him. And so she answers and she's like, hey, what's up? And I'm like, Mom, are you on schedule? Like, do you think you're going to finish on time? She's like, well, what it looks like, yeah, like the party seems like it's winding down pretty well. So I think that I'm going to come back on time. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, well, can you call me when you're outside? And then he can help us unload and then we can go and drop him off. And she said, that's fine. So time passes, it's 1 a.m. and like, so I'm like thinking like, okay, Mom's going to be here any moment. And so I tell him my mom's going to be here any moment, you know, whatever, we're watching another movie. And so we're talking and watching another movie and talking. And he holds my hand and he's like, you know what, you know, I really like you. And because he was about to go to college, he was just like, you know, like I'm about to go to college and I don't want us to break up. Like I want us to continue dating. And I know that you're going to be a senior and you're going to go to whatever college you want to go to. And I know that we're so young and people are going to say like, I mean, all this really fun stuff. Like this like guy was like really cool. Like, and I really liked him and he really liked me. So it was something that was like, okay, yeah, like this can go for long. Like we can be dating for years. And so yeah, like time passed and so he eventually like scooted in, he hugged me and he like put his arm around me and we were watching the movie or whatever. And then he like swoops down with the swag and he grabs my chin and he gives me a peck on my lips. And I'm like, first kiss that we've ever had. Mind you, he had balls because like that was my grandparents' house and like that stuff didn't happen. And so I was just like, oh my God, like he kissed me. And so it was just like a really simple kiss which turned into a more passionate kiss. But then I said like, you know, we're at my grandparents' house, we have to respect. And he's like, no, I understand, I'm so sorry. And we just didn't kiss anymore. But it was a really good kiss. Like it was a really innocent, passionate, like I really like you type of kiss. That's what it was. So it was good that I stopped him though, because not even like 10 minutes later, not even like 5 minutes later, my grandmother pops back into the living room and she's like, oh, your mom's not here yet? And I'm like, no, not here. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ. Thank you so much for not letting me have, like, been kissing him at that time. So when my grandmother leaves, she's like, well, call her, make sure she's still on track. And I'm like, okay. So she goes back to sleep and we both look at each other and he's like, dude, like she would have like caught us kissing. I was like, see, that's why I said like no kissing at my grandparents' house. Like I'll get in huge trouble. Like they're going to get after me. So 2:00 rolls around and I call my mom and I just wanted to know if she was on her way. She didn't answer. And so at this time I told him like, I think her phone turned off because it went straight to voicemail. And he's like, okay. And I was like, I mean, I could take the car, but I was such a wuss, guys, like that I would never to think just to take the car, to take him home and then come back. Because if I got caught, like I was going to get in trouble. If I was stopped by the police, I was going to get in trouble. Like it was just so many things that I was just like, I am not going to get in trouble. I am sorry. Like, so I was like, why don't you like maybe call your mom or your dad and ask them like if they can bring you, if they can come get you. And then just tell them like, that I'll, like, I'm so sorry, like, things happen and whatever, like, I'll go outside with you and I'll explain to them. Excuse me. And he was just like, no, it's cool, like, my mom's probably asleep, my dad's probably asleep too, like, and I was like, well, do you want me to tell my grandmother and my grandfather to help, like, they can take you home? And he's like, look, they're asleep, don't mess with them, like, just leave them alone, my mom will understand, like, I'll explain to her. And so I was like, okay, like, so he's late. He's like, in fact, he's like, I'm never on time for my curfew. Like, I don't even have a curfew. I go out with the guys and I'm out there for hours. Like, I don't come home till way later, right? Whatever. And I'm thinking like, okay, cool. So B knows what his mom, like, I knew how my parents got after me. So I knew that if I was going to be late for curfew, I better pick up a phone somewhere and call my mom and tell her like, I'm going to be late. This is what's happening. So time passed and it was already like 3:00 in the morning. And I was just like, crap, like, we need to do something. Like, you're late. And he's like, you know what? Just relax. Don't worry about it. Like, if I get in trouble, I get in trouble. It's not a big deal. Like, nobody's going to say anything to you, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, well, yeah, because, like, I mean, I tried, you know, to get him out of my house. Not that I wanted him to get him out, but, like, I tried to, like, sort of tell him, like, hey, like, we need to do something to, like, get you home. So time passed, and I was, try to check the time here for a minute. Okay, no, I'm going to continue. So then I'm going to, so by this time, I ended up, we were talking, and I was like, well, like, I don't want your mom to think that I'm a loosey-goosey or anything like that, you know, because nothing is happening. He's like, no, my mom's not going to think that about you, like, she really likes you. She would never think bad about you, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, you don't know that. But he was like, no, it's going to be fine. Like, my mom's not going to say anything. Like, my mom's probably asleep. She's not even going to notice if I'm gone, blah, blah. And so I'm thinking, like, okay, so she's not going to notice. So then, 3 o'clock in the morning rolls over. 4 o'clock in the morning rolls over. My mom finally gets there. No, wait a minute. So 3 o'clock in the morning rolls over, and I'm like, you know what? Like, you need to call somebody, because if I don't want you to get in trouble, and we could just explain to them. So then he called his dad, and his dad answered, and his dad's like, yeah, I'm on my way for you. Mind you, his dad was a really lax man. Like, he was really chill. And so I was about to go outside with him and explain to him what happened. And he's like, no, I'll explain it to him. Don't worry about it. Like, you go inside, stay inside. Because it was like sort of drizzling. And so I was like, okay, fine. So he went outside and he's like, thank you so much for the night, blah, blah. Tell your grandma good night for me and all this stuff. And I was like, okay. My grandparents didn't wake up anymore. And my mom didn't come home until 4 o'clock in the morning. And so at that time, I was like, it's because they asked for extra hours. So I didn't want to turn it down because it was extra cash, you know, whatever. And I was like, you could have called me. She's like, my phone turned off and I don't know your number by heart. I was just like, oh my God, he's going to get in trouble because my mom had to stay extra hours to make money for our household. And so at this time, I was like, we're going to get in trouble. So time passed. And the next morning, my mom and my dad's little business had like a really good night. They had like a lot of extra cash, and my mom woke me up early in the morning, and she was like, well, not early, it was like 11. And she was like, wake up, we're going to go to Mexico, because my town is like a bordering town. And so I was like, okay, well, it's a bordering town. I'm going to go ahead and, my mom was like, I'm going to take you guys to Mexico to go eat. And so there's this really like not bougie, but this really delicious, like yummy restaurant on a hill. And she was like, I'm going to take you guys there. It's really delicious. And I'm like, ooh, we're going to go eat there. And she's like, and I want you to invite V, you know, like invite him over. But my mom wanted to take him because she was like, I feel bad that I like didn't follow through with the thing, but I want to like make it up to him, you know, whatever. And I was like, ooh, okay, let's invite B. So then this is where it starts, guys. So then I call his house. And I'm like, I need to think of a last name. I'm just going to call her Mrs. F. So then I'm going to say, she answers the phone, and then I said, good afternoon, Miss F. And she's like, oh, good afternoon. And I was like, can I please speak to B? I almost said his name. Can I please speak to B by any chance? Can I please speak to B? And then she's like, oh, no. She's like, my son, B, will no longer be able to talk to you anymore. And I was like, okay. She's like, you are the reason why I have sheltered my son so much from little girls like you. And I was like, automatically, this woman was already thinking like I was being a little loosey-goose. So that's what I told him. And I was like, okay. And so she told me off. She called me a little loosey-goose. She said that I was, that because my parents were so strict, like she couldn't imagine how they would allow him to stay there that long. She said like all this other stuff about like how he didn't need me in his life, that he had a future, and that I obviously didn't have a future, and that's why I was like so attracted to him, and blah blah blah. Mind you, B, he was not hot. He was not a hot guy. He was handsome-ish, and he was handsome-ish. Yeah, I would say that. But what helped him a lot was his personality. He had a really pretty personality, like a really fun personality. Like, he was funny, he was outgoing, he was creative, he was witty, and it was something that he had swag. So so that's why I was like, okay, yeah. Hey, boo. Okay, so then I was, so then I have to like get closer, guys, because I need to explain this to y'all. So let me disconnect this because I was about to burn my handsy. Okay. So she said all this ugly, ugly stuff to me. Mind you, as a Hispanic woman, as a Mexican American woman, or a young woman, you are raised to not talk back to your elders and not disrespect them. Do not interrupt because you will get slapped. So I let her talk. And I just let her say everything she wanted to say. And I said, okay, Miss F, now I'm going to tell you something. The reason why, I don't know if B told you, but the reason why he was late or at home so late was because my mom had to work, had to take that extra time because she needed to make the extra money for her home, wanted to, and the reason I'm calling today is because she wanted a treat B because she wanted to apologize for her taking like forever at wherever she was, like at the party that she was at. And we didn't do anything. My grandmother was there. We weren't alone. There was nothing that happened. Your son respected me. I respected him. My parents are super strict, which is why the respect was there to begin with. And I don't appreciate you talking to me the way you did. Now, nothing happened between us. And so she interrupted me. I was like, well, nothing happened between us. I was like, so I would appreciate if you didn't talk to me like that. And so she said, well, like she went off. She started telling me like, and if you've ever heard a Mexican mother yell at you, it's sort of like, well, I told you, and I'm like, oh crap. Like, if my mother heard the way this woman was talking to me, I swear she would have cut a bitch. Like, I swear, like, she would cut her so bad. Like, no, like, nobody talks to my daughter like that. Especially because my mom trusts me. She knows what type of daughter she had. So she would never, like, put me in a situation or think of, like, put me in a situation where she wasn't going to trust me. Okay, so then that was done. And she said that I couldn't speak to him, so I didn't. We hung up, and I immediately called one of our friends. One of my friends, we're going to call him Danny. That wasn't his name, but I'm going to call him Danny because it sort of rhymes. One of my friends was his friend, and it's so crazy how I knew my friend, but I didn't know about B before we met. And so we were talking, and Danny had told me, well, like, I called Danny and I was like, Danny, and by this time I was in tears. I was crying. I was so upset. Like, I didn't know what was going on. I was trying to get dressed because my mom wanted to leave. Like, but my mom did not know what was going on. And so And so I was like, okay, this and this is going on. This is what happened. This is what, like, his mom said. And he's like, what? And all my friends know what type of person I am. Everybody that I know knows what type of person I am. So they were like, he was like, what? Why did she say that? And I was like, I don't know. But, like, can you call him and tell him to call me? Like, I really need to talk to him. I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know what was said or if he got in trouble. Like, I was still worried about B, because his mom was pretty intense. So he's like, yeah, I'll call him and then I'll call you to tell you, like, what he said, but then I'll have him call you or whatever. So then time passes. 5 minutes pass. Danny calls me. I was about to say his name too. Ow! I need to stop. Okay, so Danny calls me and he says, like, hey, like, this and this happened. Like, it was a misunderstanding. And I was like, how was that a misunderstanding? She told me off, like, whatever. And so he's like, he heard everything. He's like, and I was like, he heard everything, but yet he didn't step up for me. And he's like, and Danny at this point was like, you know what? You need to talk to him. I don't know nothing. I was like, okay, thank you so much, Danny. I really appreciate your time. So he's like, yeah, he's going to call you in a little bit. He's going to just get out of the house because his mom was going crazy. Over something else, but it wasn't even like, but this situation just added to, like, whatever that situation was. And so time passed. I'm going to say about like 10 minutes passed. I was fully dressed to leave. And I told him, like, what happened, what his mom told. He called me and he's like, hey. And I was like, hey. And he says, I was like, you're not, like, I don't know what's going on. I was like, but your mom. And he's like, I know, I heard it all. Like, don't listen to her. She's just being extra, like, blah, blah. And I was like, what do you mean you heard everything? Excuse me. Ooh, ew, that's so gross. I'm so sorry. So he said that he heard everything because his mom was being extra all day, and that that it's not my fault, like, she's just being like that and all this other stuff, and not to listen to her. And I was like, so you heard her yelling at me on the phone? And he said, yes. That forever, guys, broke my heart, because regardless of if that's your mother, and if you really like somebody, like, and if you know that what she's saying is incorrect, I would have stepped up. Even though it is customary to, like, just be quiet and shut your mouth and respect and not say anything and not talk back, I would have 100% said, like, Mom, you're wrong. Like, she's not like that. Like, don't talk to her like that. Like, nothing happened. Something. So at this point, I was heartbroken, and I was like, you know what? Like, your mom got what she wanted. We're not going to talk anymore. You are no longer my boyfriend. Like, tell her you can thank your mom for that because she did this to you. And he was heartbroken. Like, he was so sad. He was like, don't do this to me, blah, blah. But in my head, guys, like, he hurt me because he did not stand up for me. Like, he could have said something. Like, he could have just been like, Mom, like, no, like, you got the story wrong. Like, something. Or he could have texted me and said, don't call my house. Something. Something. But he didn't do any of that. Or he could have called one of his friends and said, look, tell Janelle not to call the house. Something. But he didn't say anything. He didn't do anything to prevent it. He didn't say anything. So his mother disrespected me, and I didn't feel like that respect was ever going to be restored just because of the way she disrespected me. And I didn't appreciate that. I never called her out of her name, and just a lot of things. So that's how it broke up. I went to dinner that day, or late lunch that day, and I was literally crying on my fajitas, guys. Like, I ordered this most amazing plate of food, and I was crying on my plate of food, okay? I would remember my eyes were tear up because I was so heartbroken. I was so hurt. Like, I can think of, like, my 17-year-old self, and I'm just like, or my 17-year-old self, and I'm like, come here, baby. You know, like, that was my feeling at that moment. Like, my 2003 self was heartbroken, and it was something that we dated for a while. We spoke for a while. We seen each other as friends for a while before we dated. That we knew we were both very strong-willed people. We both are very strong-willed people. And we knew about each other. That we knew that we each wanted something better. Never did I stop him from wanting to go, like, hundreds of miles away to college, because that is what he wanted. That is what I wanted for him. I always wanted the best for him, so it was something that, like, we always wanted the best for each other. Yeah. And I remember that day like it was like yesterday. Like, I was so heartbroken. I came home and I cried myself to sleep. Never have I cried myself to sleep like that over a guy anymore, though. Crazy, huh? But yeah, that was my first love story, guys. Like, I literally was heartbroken for about a week. I couldn't eat. It was bad. And it was probably because it was like, what is it called? Like, it was like puppy love, but it wasn't puppy love anymore. Do you see that fly? Oh my God, go away. Anyways. Okay, guys. So that's pretty much it. If you like these types of stories, let me know. Comment below. And also, tell me what you want to hear. Like, comment down below what type of videos. I've done DIYs. I've done tutorials. I've done, oh my God. I've done tutorials. I've done DIYs. I've done a little bit of everything. Hair tutorials. And yeah. If you want to see some more of these stories, like story times, let me know. I will be more than happy to post them. This is the second part of the first part. So if you're watching this part, go back to the first part. It is going to be linked down below. And let me know what you think. Guys, I wish I had a more eventful love story. My first love story. But that was pretty much it. It was pretty innocent, like I said. But yet, it was cut really short. By the way, update. I did meet up with him years, like, and when I say years, I mean years later, like, yeah. It wasn't horrible, and it wasn't nothing really happened, but like, it was just like, we reminisced a lot in the past, and, he was no longer in the college that he was supposed to go to. He got in some trouble. I mean, life happened, and I didn't do what I wanted to do as far as college went. I waited, but also did some college at home. And it was like our paths had been so different than when we first talked. It was crazy, but that's life. And yeah, like, I wish him nothing but the best. B, I wish you nothing but the best. I hope you're having an amazing time and an amazing life. yeah, so this story's about you, boo. Bye, guys.